Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1609.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about why the tariff decision is delayed for now. Now, according to CNBC, the Supreme Court was to make a decision on tariffs today, Friday, January 9th, but the Supreme Court did not rule. And that means that markets await a decision poised to have far-reaching impacts on not only trade policy, but also on the U.S. fiscal situation. It's now unclear when the actual ruling will be released. What the ruling affects is two different issues: whether the administration can use provisions under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to levy tariffs, and if it isn't proper, if the U.S. will have to reimburse those importers who have already paid the duties. But the decision could also fall somewhere in between. The court has the option to grant limited powers under IEEPA and require only limited repayment, along with multiple other options for how it handles a touchy matter that is being closely watched on Wall Street. The White House says even if they lose the case, it has other tools to implement tariffs that don't require the emergency powers cited under the Act, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Thursday he expects a mishmash ruling. He said, "What is not in doubt is our ability to continue collecting tariffs at roughly the same level in terms of overall revenues. What is in doubt, and it's a real shame for the American people, was the president loses flexibility to use tariffs both for national security and for negotiating leverage." Jose Torres, senior economist at Interactive Brokers, said losing the tariffs would have multiple ramifications. If the court blocks the tariffs, the administration is going to find workarounds. President Trump is very ambitious in getting this agenda through, despite potential controversies that could surround such a decision. He added blocking tariffs would be bad for onshoring ambitions. It would be bad for fiscal conditions, rates would go higher, but it would be good for corporate earnings. Input prices would be lower and trade would be smoother. Administration officials have cited a number of options to offset the court's decision should it not go their way. Prediction market site Kalshi is pointing to just a 28% probability that the court will rule in favor of the tariffs as implemented. Scott Bessent has said that the administration has at least three other options through the 1962 Trade Act that will keep most of the tariffs in place. However, he also has worried that reimbursements could place a strain on the administration and its effort to drive down the fiscal deficit. Tariffs brought in around $195 billion in fiscal 2025 and another $62 billion in 2026, according to Treasury data. If the Supreme Court compels the White House to refund billions in collected duties, a move Wolf Research said it doesn't see much of a legal argument for, it would mire the U.S. government further in debt. In turn, Treasury yields are likely to rise, as I said, which could put pressure on stocks. Meanwhile, Trump could invoke other executive powers to reinstate his tariffs, causing further unpredictability for businesses and markets. Mitchell Goldberg, head of Client First Strategy, said, "Uncertainty and unusual have been the two marquee words of 2025. If the Supreme Court rules against the administration, I don't think it's the end of the road for tariff policy, it's just another bump in the road." A top economic advisor to President Trump expressed confidence Thursday that court rulings throwing out aggressive tariffs would be overturned on appeal. Kevin Hassett, director of the National Economic Council, said in an interview that he fully believes the administration's efforts to use tariffs to ensure fair trade are perfectly legal and will resume soon. The comments follow a ruling from judges on the Court of International Trade who said Trump exceeded his authority on tariffs, which are aimed both at combating barriers against American goods abroad and stemming the flow of fentanyl across the U.S. border. While the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has said that fentanyl is the primary driver in domestic overdose deaths, the judges ruled that related tariffs fail because they do not deal with the threats set forth in those orders. Asset bristled at the ruling and said the administration will continue its anti-fentanyl efforts. The administration has multiple options to get around the judge's ruling, including other sections of trade laws it can utilize. However, Asset said that's not the plan at the moment. The fact is that there are measures that we can take with different numbers that we can start right now. There are different approaches that would take a couple of months to put these in place. Asset said there are a lot of other legal authorities that can reproduce the deals that we've made with other countries and can do so basically immediately. And so our expectation is that we're going to win, and if we don't win, then we know that we've got other tools we could use that could get us to the same place. Asset said U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer has been closely involved in mapping out contingency plans. So it seems like we're being prepared for a negative ruling and an alternative plan. But we'll have to continue to follow the story and see how it turns out. If you haven't yet subscribed to Be Wealthy and Smart, hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified as soon as new podcasts are available. And all of my podcasts are on my website at lindapjones.com/podcasts. And while you're there, sign up for my weekly newsletter for more wealth tips for your financial freedom. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.